Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman and thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, this month marks the anniversary of pandemic-induced shutdowns across Illinois. As we close out a year of COVID, we'll assess the road behind us and the journey ahead. Calls for accountability and more community resources after a mass shooting in Greater Grand Crossing last weekend. Arts correspondent Angel Ito checks in with a Black theater company to see how it's been managing during the pandemic.
You have to make yourself happy however you can. Karaoke is
Plus,
free.
comic and actor Rachel Allison Hall gives the last word on making the most of a year spent at home. First off tonight, this time last year, few could have predicted just how terrible the COVID-19 pandemic would be or how long it would last. More than 500,000 Americans dead, over 23,000 of them in Illinois. Hospitals and healthcare workers strained to their breaking point. Millions of jobs lost and families struggling to stay fed and housed. Now vaccinations are bringing some light to what was a very dark landscape, but challenges continue to lie ahead. Joining us now with more are Dr. Maya Green, Regional Medical Director of Howard Brown Health's South Region Clinics, and Audra Wilson, President and CEO of the Shriver Center on Poverty Law. Thanks to you both for joining us. So the first vaccines, as we know, they were administered to healthcare workers in December, and since then, nearly 13% of Illinoisans are fully vaccinated. Here's a little bit of what Mayor Lori Lightfoot said about all of this last week.
Think about where we started, which was Black and Latinx Chicago being in the mid to low teens and now being well over 50% consistently week after week, but also in cases that are diminishing exponentially in Black and Latinx Chicago. It's a really good news story, but we have to remain diligent.
Audra Wilson, do you think the city and state authorities have done enough or are doing enough to ensure equitable access to the vaccine?
I think it's a mixed bag. There was definitely some good things. There was careful deliberation with respect to the creation of the categories of people to be vaccinated. There were pretty good websites that were pretty easy to navigate that would lay out those categories and next steps. And there were a lot of efforts to make sure that they were being as strict as possible and laying out the guidelines for prioritizing the most vulnerable people. But the rollout was disjointed. There was a lot of muddled information about where people could go to get vaccinated. There were a lot of difficulties in securing appointments online. I'm sure people have heard many horror stories of websites that were crashing or with seniors having to sign up at midnight to try to get appointments. And there were a lot of people who were coming from outside of neighborhoods where there were clinics to be able to get vaccines. So I would say it was definitely a mixed bag in terms of the rollout.
Dr. Maya Green, after a year of fighting this pandemic, how far would you say we've come, especially, compared to where you thought we might be a year from when this started?
Well, a year ago, I think we were in the period of more shock, right? And if you look at how testing kind of rolled out, how the algorithms that included implicit bias rolled out, I think we were in a period of shock and learning how we in America kind of pathologically think about equity, or don't think about equity, I should say. One thing I'm loving that I see that we have evolved to is we started vaccinating. We saw the map and saw that we were not getting the hardest hit communities, and we did change course quicker than I thought we would. So I think as far as looking through an equity lens, it's good to see us move from a point of shock to action. So I'm loving that. We've got a lot of ways to go. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, we've achieved equity, when we have not yet achieved equality, but we have moved the needle. And I'm glad to be part of that movement.
Right, and I want to get to, the road ahead with the two of you as well while I have you. But first, Audra Wilson, when you are looking back, when you first began, or when did you first begin to realize the scale of the disaster that was coming towards us?
Unfortunately, it was almost immediate. The impact on low-income and Black and Brown communities has been devastating. There were so many people who were already marginalized prior to COVID with respect to access to quality healthcare, affordable housing, living wages, and quality educational opportunities. And for this fleeting moment that our country had responded in gratitude, talking about frontline workers, from healthcare professionals to factory workers and agricultural workers, childcare workers, all the people who made our lives much easier during the shutdown, but who never had the luxury of being able to work from home. But the truth is, these are many of the same people who prior to COVID lacked access to employer-based health insurance, lacked access to paid sick leave. So quite frankly, knowing that this was going to become a pandemic, it was clear to us as advocates that this was going to be very, very serious in our community.
Dr. Green, similar question, as a clinician, what has this last year taught you about the people in the communities that you serve?
That our community, I am of the community, I'm from the south side of Chicago, and that our community is resilient and vibrant and deserves so much more than we have historically been giving them. I've seen community come together, but I do want to mention that what I've learned from the community is their willingness, right? One of the main things I've learned is willingness to participate in a healthcare exchange that they trust. And one thing that burns in my mind over this last year, changing the needle from the gaslighting of saying African Americans or Latins and their mistrust in the medical industry to naming that the medical industry hasn't been historically trustworthy towards Black and Brown bodies, And so that's something I've learned to always talk about and lead with when I'm not doing a vaccination teaching or vaccination education, but I'm listening to the community, allowing the community to further educate me, and then designing services around the needs of a community, designed by the community.
And sticking with you for a sec, Dr. Green, looking ahead at the next year, what do you think the pandemic's long-term health effects on the Black community will be?
What I'm seeing now, long-term health effects, because we have to look, there's a pandemic, but there was also a rise, and you look historically with pandemics, what happens is there's a rise in racial profiling and injustices that are race-based. And so within that, we know that the Black community literally watched as people of our community were murdered, harmed, things like that. And then the violence was overlooked or gaslit, right? So on top of watching our loved ones die, because let's note, Black and Brown communities bear the brunt of adverse impact or adverse outcomes from COVID, but also at the same time had to watch not only COVID harming our bodies, right, but different institutionalized racism. And so mental health, I think definitely mental health services are going to be a need, not only now, they were already a need, but in the long run, right? In spaces where Black and Brown people are not only feel safe, but are safe.
And sort of to that end, Audra Wilson, the long-term financial effects, what might those be? Because we know that obviously many members of the Black community have dealt with other challenges in this past pandemic as well, aside from just the health-related issues.
Absolutely. We still have yet to see the full impact of COVID economically. Our economy is still weak. The jobs recovery has lost some momentum, and there are about 9.5 million fewer jobs than in February of 2020. We know that Black unemployment is at 9.9%, which is well above white unemployment at 5.6%. And there are estimates that say that the economy will not reach its full potential until 2025. So that's why there's so much for us to be thinking about right now in terms of how we're going to be able to recover. I will say that the American Rescue Plan that's recently been passed is going to be a very integral part of that recovery. And many of the provisions that are contained therein really need to be made permanent, especially with the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. These are things that could cut child poverty. These are things that could make a sizable dent in adult poverty and could really go a long way into stabilizing our communities, not just Black and Brown communities, but the community at large.
And Dr. Green, we've got about 30 seconds left. What do you expect to see as far as recovery in the next few months as vaccinations ramp up?
I expect and I hope for, Wilson mentioned earlier how links are set up. I expect and hope for those links to be rooted in grassroots organizations in the Black and brown communities, because they don't go to necessarily a public health department link to find it or a healthcare institution. You have to access the community. Black African Americans still move in tribes, and so you have to protect the tribe.
Better ways for them to access that, it sounds like you're saying. My thanks to Dr. Maya Green and Audra Wilson for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
2020 was a year marked not only by the pandemic, but also a nationwide movement for racial justice that continues today. Here's a look at one of the tragedies that fueled that movement on its anniversary. "15 people were shot and 2 killed a week ago in what police described as a pop-up party in the Park Manor neighborhood. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor says the business, which operates as a towing company, needs to be held accountable.
We can't have a different set of standards for some communities than others. This would not dare have ever happened in Lincoln Park. Not in a million years. It's not even a thought in my mind. And so why does it get to happen in my community? But we all have to take ownership of what happened and do a better job at actually fixing. And so all I have is my word to these families that if it's legislation, whatever it is, we got to do something different. And it's not giving people a slap on the wrist.
Earlier this week, we spoke with Pastor Anthony Wright of Ring of Hope Youth and Family Center and Vondale Singleton of CHAMPS, a mentoring program for young African American and Latino men. I asked Singleton about the role mental health care plays in preventing violence and in preventing people from becoming desensitized to it.
You know, I think it's everything, and I think we don't do enough of making that cool, making that popular because of the trauma. And so when trauma happens, there needs to be a healing process. That's the normalcy part of trauma, right? But then what happens is while you're in the process to move towards that, something else interrupts that. And so you never get the full development to become whole. And I think it's unfair. I think we have to do more to sound the drum that I'm sure that the shooter had mental health issues. I'm sure he did.
And Pastor Wright, you know, have there been successful long-term violence prevention efforts, or has it always been sort of patchwork in response to something like this?
Well, I think it's been mostly patchwork in my experience. I think we have been reactive instead of proactive. And I really think that we need to really begin to invest in organizations that have boots and roots in our communities. You know, oftentimes when funding is dispersed, it's oftentimes dispersed to people who may not necessarily be rooted in our communities, and the relationship is not there. I really think there needs to be some more sustainable funding and connections with grassroots organizations that already have relationships with the community.
Now, when we spoke with Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, who we heard just a few minutes ago earlier, she also said that it's important for community members to share what they know about the people who are responsible.
I get people don't trust the police. I get the police haven't been friendly to the community, but the people who ultimately killed and shot these folks need to be held accountable as well. We got to do a better job at not working in silos and actually working together. And so working with community organizations, working with violence prevention, working with the churches, working with the everyday people in the community to say, hey, what could we do different?
And Vondale Singleton, how do you help build that trust, whether it is with police or community members, community leaders?
I think there needs to be some communication around just, how we hold everybody accountable. There's no way that shooters should be hiding within the very communities that they're bringing demise to. I think there needs to be an approach where we as stakeholders say, hey, here we are. We're still being consistent. We're here. And we need everybody to play a part. Everybody to play a part. Here's why: because it's a trickle effect when it happens. That trauma spreads to the family, both on the victim side as well as the shooter side. So there are ripple effects that we feel as a result of what happens. And I think if we're going to heal as a community, everybody have to be able to come to the table and have some real, authentic, crucial conversations.
And Pastor Wright, how do you make sure that, community services, whether it's violence prevention or conflict resolution or mental health, that they're actually meeting the needs of the community?
I think that's a great question. I think it all goes back to resources, because we have a lot of great organizations in our community, but the problem has been sustainability. There's only so much you could do without resources. And as I said before, resources are being dispersed, but they're not always, in my opinion, sent to the right places. And back to what Vondale was saying about the community response, we have a lot of people who are really being held hostage in their own communities because of fear. If I speak out, if I don't feel safe, I may be retaliated against. So you have people who want to talk, who want to tell, but they're really being held captive or hostage in their own communities.
Now, both of you have talked about resources. We heard Alderwoman Taylor talk about the community kind of owning it themselves. In the little bit of time that we have left, Vondale, I'm going to ask you first a little bit briefly about CHAMPS and how you all work.
Yeah, absolutely. So CHAMPS stands for Culturally Helping and Making Positive Success. And we are a male mentoring group stemming from Gary Comer College Prep for boys and young men of color. And our 3 E's are education, empowerment, and exposure. And so we are both providing virtual and in-person support.
And Pastor Wright, a few seconds left, but Ring of Hope and the work that you do there.
Well, Ring of Hope Youth and Family Services, we started off in the Greater Grand Cross community about 10 years ago with a boxing program. And the purpose of the program was to allow young men to channel their energy and aggression in a more positive way. And the program has since evolved into Double Dutch. We have a media lab. We have family wraparound services. We're just trying to, for the most part, prevent violence and try to find alternatives so we can provide a safe community, especially in the Greater Grand Crossing community.
Okay. And thanks to both of you for joining us, Pastor Anthony Wright and Vondale Singleton.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And we're back with more right after this. When the pandemic hit, theaters across the country were faced with the harsh reality of being the first to close and the last to open. Arts correspondent Angel Edo shares how a Chicago theater company has taken their stage online.
I done told you, you ain't touching that piano.
As the Congo Square Theater Company celebrates nearly 20 years, they're working to ensure that Black stories are still told on stage, even virtually.
The expanse of the Black story is never limited. So that's why we have so much range of what we do. We, go from classic work, August Wilson, to sketch comedy, to musical, to this wide variety of work that we're able to produce because we love our Blackness and we celebrate it every moment that we are able to, which is all the time.
Hit 'em on the black side.
This celebration was most recently seen in Hit 'em on the Black Side, a bi-weekly comedy sketch series streamed virtually.
Each piece in its own right was its own genre. And it also commented on different themes going on in the Black community. So we would touch on police brutality, no-knock raids. We would touch on what's happening in the world with COVID and remote learning in schools, commenting on the world in a fun way. It is sketch comedy, so the pieces are funny, but it's Congo Square, and so we are hitting them in ways that can challenge you to think about how we as people of color view, interpret, and respond to what's happening in the world around us.
I've always been told I'm dramatic.
He kills the dramatic acting, you hear me?
Ensemble members and husband and wife duo Alexis and Kelvin Roston say the virtual experience has been empowering, to say the least.
For us, by us. You know what I mean? Like, our voices have not been heard enough across most mediums of the entertainment industry. So we get the opportunity and the honor to tell our stories from our perspective.
When we talk about working at other theater companies, we create a family for a moment, but working with Congo, I'm already with the family.
You're a lifer.
Across the country, we're seeing major gridlock heading into justice.
With more virtual shows and festivals in the works for the new year, the Black Theater Company says their overall goal remains the same.
One of the things that we think about is the legacy that we're building as an organization, but the legacy that we're building in the people that we're impacting for the community. So not just Congo's legacy, but the Black arts legacy and how we are able to pour into the next generation of Black voices.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Angel Ito.
The Congo Square Theater's newest episode of Hit 'em on the Black Side just dropped on Friday. Visit our website for more information on where to stream it. Like many of us, Texas-born, Chicago-based comic and actor Rachel Allison Hall had a lot of unexpected downtime at home foisted upon her over the last year. Here, she gives the last word on using that time to work on yourself.
I'm Rachel Allison Hall. I'm an actor, I'm a comic, and a part-time hot mess. So my birthday is March 13th, and so I go home for my birthday, and my brother's driving me to the airport to come back to Chicago. And the days up to it, all that was on the news was coronavirus. What is this coronavirus? Cardi B yelling coronavirus. Like, there's all this stuff. I think maybe the first month, probably for everyone, it was a vacation, right? It was, yes, I don't have to do anything. I can sit down, I don't have to whip my pants, blah, 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 blah. And my roommates and I went to a craft store and I bought $100 worth of yarn. I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna make this big giant Pinterest-style yarn mural thing to go on my very empty wall. I learned how to macrame Macklemore is a rapper. And it looked very intricate and complicated, so I figured this is gonna take at least a month. It took 3 days, and then I blew through all the other stuff in like 2 days. So I was like, okay, girl, you gotta find something else to do. Then I just had to start figuring out, all right, what do I actually like? Working on yourself is probably different for everyone. And I've been working on my craft, right? I've been writing way more often, trying to shoot stupid little sketches, little 30-second sketches, and writing and just putting myself out there in a creative way that I never would have done before. So many people aren't doing that at all. So by the time this is over, you are leaps and bounds ahead of them. So when 2023 hits or whatever, we get to go back outside again. I'll be ready. I'm looking forward to literally like sprinting out the gate. Because before, maybe there were a lot of things I was like, well, I don't know how to do that, or I have no experience in it, I have no this, I have no that. I've been doing a lot. And so I think it's allowing yourself to be selfish in terms of yourself, and it's doing those things that make you happy. Because if you're waiting on something, it's never going to happen. Just like people have china in their house and they're waiting on a special occasion. Barack Obama's not coming over. Take the china out of the cabinet and do the thing that you want to do the thing with.
You can watch more from the Last Word series on our website. And that's our show for this Sunday night. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News, including CPS data on Black students attending in-person classes. And join Paris Schutz and me tomorrow at 7 on Chicago Tonight. Will aldermen vote yes to tighten restrictions on industrial operations like General Iron? And an outdoor art exhibit in Greektown offers residents a socially distant creative outlet. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, dedicated to preserving the dignity and rights of all individuals.